welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about how my views have changed on dating ever since I made my first trip to Kenya, and hopefully share my experiences from coming from the UK to help you guys when looking to go abroad. The first thing that I've experienced that has changed my views on dating is the fact that the women in Kenya are so polite, they're so friendly. This has kind of changed my view on dating because in the UK, I wasn't getting any results in dating. I was being left on red, I was being flaked on. I was having so many bad experiences dating in the UK, and that has just made me to believe that, oh yeah, all women are not respectful, they don't have any good intentions. I was arriving to Kenya thinking, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna get the same experience that I did in the UK. But I was actually shocked because the woman there was so respectful. If I went to a restaurant in Kenya, Nairobi, women are always so polite, they're always gonna say thank you, they're always gonna say you're welcome, they're always gonna say sorry. They have good manners when it comes to talking to people, whether that be in dating or whether that just be talking to people regularly. When I went to the Sarit Center is in Nairobi. So I went to look for clothes that I could buy. So I went up to a random girl, she was working in a clothing store. So we went up to her and we asked her, do you know where we can find clothes that we can buy in bulk? And she told us that she actually knew someone. The woman was willing to give her friend's number. So she gave us her friend's WhatsApp so we can kind of contact her. Like, she could have just said, oh no, I don't know where you guys can go and buy clothes in bulk. She could have said that she doesn't know. But she was really respectful and she was kind and she told us. She showed us around, so she was really helpful. So it's part of their culture here to be respectful to people. And that was one of the reasons that changed my mind on dating, because in the UK, I wasn't used to that. I was used to women being rude, being disrespectful, not showing any respect, shouting at men. That's what I was seeing on the street. Another thing that changed my mind on dating when I was in Kenya was that women tend to value long-term relationships and they tend to value dating to marry, especially if you go outside of Nairobi. Of course, it happens in Nairobi as well, but women are a bit more westernized when it comes to dating. This instantly changed my mind on dating. That's because in the UK and in the West, most women don't want to be in long-term relationships, or they don't want to be committed in a relationship. They would rather have short-term pleasure and they're more focused on their careers and being independent. So they feel like they don't need a man. So this kind of changed my perception on dating. Like, every time I would talk to a chick, it's like they always tell me, oh yeah, I'm not looking to settle down now, or I'm not really into being in a long-term relationship, or I don't really want to get married. You're most likely going to run into that in the UK more compared to, let's say, Nairobi, Kenya, or other parts of Kenya. Obviously, I'm young, I'm 23. Of course, I don't want to be in a relationship, or I don't want to be in a long-term relationship right now because I'm focused on my goals. I'm focused on, starting my own business. So I don't really have time for that right now. But I do eventually want to settle down, have kids. And I feel like me being in the UK, my chances of actually settling down is going to be tough because of the culture. Women don't want to settle down. They feel like all men are trash. They're very antisocial, So it's just kind of like that kind of culture that is preventing me from actually staying in the UK. So another factor that changed my opinion on dating when I was in Kenya was based on religion. So if you guys don't know, Kenya is predominantly a Christian country. They're more into Christianity over there compared to the UK, where there's not really any religion. And even if you are Christian, you're not a true Christian. Of course, everywhere you go, you're going to experience a person calling themselves a Christian, but they're not really a Christian. They're still doing bad things, committing crimes. Of course, anywhere you go in the world, you're going to experience that. And I feel like religion has an influence on family life and also dating roles. For example, the man should be the leader of the family, you know, and the woman should also be a leader, but they're mostly, working to, support the children and, the old fashioned way of life, tradition, religious beliefs, that kind of stuff. So this means that you would usually find more women in Kenya that are respectful, are submissive, are loyal in a relationship. Of course, anywhere you go in the world, anywhere in Kenya, there's going to be women that are cheating and, not being faithful. But most of the time in Kenya, you're probably going to find women that are loyal, are respectful because of their religion, which is something I don't think I've experienced when I was in the UK, because most women are not really, like that. Like, for example, I was talking to a chick, right? She was from Hungary. She was an international student and she was studying in the UK. So we was talking for about 2 months, and there was a time when we went out and my mom was calling and I was talking to my mom and she was asking me, why do you have to follow what your mom is saying all the time? Why do you have to do what your mom says all the time? And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? In my mind, I feel like she was being disrespectful to my family. I'm not saying every woman is like that, but I'm just saying as a part of the culture in places like UK, in other Western countries, it's completely normal to be disrespectful to your parents and not follow your parents' rules. However, if you go to places around Africa, yeah, it's not common for women to disobey their parents because it's not a part of their culture. If they do that, yeah, they're gonna get a smack. They're gonna get, a smack. And sometimes the parents might even just slap them, or they might just tell them, get out of my house, I don't want to see you anymore. You're not a part of the family. So guys, I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions about what I've said today, make sure to leave a comment down below. Also like the video and subscribe. Peace.